Recording is on. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to LisaBug Yoga. And we are going to focus today on another one of the bandhas. In the last few classes, I've been devoting a little bit of time to talking about each one of the locks. And the last one we haven't spoken about yet is known as the throat lock, the Jalandhara Bandha. And then Joyce Birdie asked if we could kind of do a little bit of a recap and revisit the ones we've already talked about, which I think is a great idea. So I'll quickly revisit the locks that we've covered as well. So what I have today, if you have a blanket to sit on, or if you want to sit on a cushion, a pillow, even in a chair, I just want you to be comfortable as we start. I also have a block and a strap as options today for our practice. So let's just come into a comfortable seat. I'm just going to sit up on my blanket with a crossed leg position, but any place where you feel comfortable. We'll just close our eyes and begin to notice our breath this morning. And also noticing your spine. Specifically noticing your neck, an area where we carry a lot of tension. And over time, as we age, we have a tendency to have a little bit of degenerative disc disease, a little bit of arthritis going on in our neck, some misalignments. So today our Jalandhara Bandha, or the throat lock or chin lock, will focus on the neck region. So before we begin to work on this lock, I'd like you to just gently move your head from side to side into lateral flexion of the neck. Just noticing if you feel any tension today in the neck or any pain or a reduced range of motion, any stiffness. Just very easily begin to work that out a little bit by lengthening the muscles on the side of the neck. So our neck takes quite a beating through the day just because of the positions we're in, and most of all being on our phones a lot and sitting at a computer or even driving the car. So we want to bring our neck back into a nice, stable, balanced position this morning through our throat lock. Now begin to just rotate your head from side to side. Again, noticing, do you feel any stiffness? Is there a difference between how far you can rotate to the right versus how far you can rotate to the left? And you can either do this with your eyes closed to really feel internally what you're feeling, or you can open your eyes to see how far you could look behind you on each side, from the right to the left. The next time you look to the right, we'll start to make a half circle or a little smiley face. So from the right shoulder, start to rotate your chin down, around to the left and pause there, then rotate down and to the other side. And this is a little preparatory movement for our Jalandhara Bandha, our throat lock. And as you do this little half circle smiley face, try not to hunch your back. So I want you to sit up really tall, as if you were up against a wall and your shoulder blades were nicely pressed back into the wall. We'll take one more to each side, starting on the right, moving to the left, and coming back to the right to finish. And bring your head to neutral. Roll the shoulders up and back a few times. It's important our posture here as we work on the throat lock. So we want to make sure we're not rounded forward. So this movement of rolling the shoulders is going to free up any tightness or tension in the fronts of the shoulders, in the pec, and just let that open up. And I prefer rolling the shoulders back. I know we can go forward, but rolling the shoulders forward tends to exacerbate this type of action. So I prefer rolling back. Let's do 2 more shoulder rolls. And last one. And just set your hands down onto the tops of your knees or into your lap. And I want you to notice this position of the head and chin. And oftentimes we sit rounded and our head goes forward. We're looking at the computer screen or we're looking down at our phone. So the Jalandhara Bandha, we want to bring the chin back, almost like for a moment you're making a little bit of a double chin. And then pull your shoulder blades back as well. So this part of your heart center is nice and broadened. It's almost like you're trying to lift your heart up towards your chin and then begin to slowly lengthen the back of the neck without rounding the back. Once you lengthen, hold that, and just notice again, if you're collapsing or dropping through your shoulders, keep the chest up. So when you do the Jalandhara Bandha, I want you to think about bringing your chest to your chin and then your chin to your chest, not vice versa. If we just think about dropping the chin to the chest, we tend to come out of our good alignment. Keep tucking your chin in towards the back of your throat. Keep lifting your heart and stretching through the back of the neck. We're going to hold this as you breathe in and out through the nose. This is a nice time to also connect with the Ujjayi breath, that soft whisper breath, where we constrict the back of the throat as we're exhaling and inhaling. Kind of makes that sound like you're fogging up your glasses. Let's take 2 more breaths here in our throat lock. Bring that chin back up to neutral. Come back into your shoulder rolls. So the benefits and the reasons we do the throat lock are vast. It would take us a whole workshop to understand the science and the physiology around the throat lock. So as we start to just gently move through some side bends, I'll give you a few of those benefits. The one I described earlier was to release tension in the neck and to stabilize the neck and to come out of that forward head posture. Another reason is our vagus nerve is activated, and the vagus nerve helps to promote our parasympathetic side of our nervous system, which helps us to relax. It also helps to lower blood pressure when we stimulate that vagus nerve. So those are other wonderful reasons to perform the throat lock. Also, our thyroid gland and our parathyroid, which are in that region of the throat, are stimulated, and the yogis of old really felt if we performed that Jalandhara Bandha properly, that we would keep our thyroid healthy and operating properly. Let's take 1 more side bend to each side, elongating through the waist. Coming back to neutral. So in previous classes, we talked about the Mula Bandha, which is the drawing up of the pelvic floor, like a pelvic floor lift or a Kegel exercise. And we talked about the Uddiyana Bandha, which is that pulling in and upward of the navel, scooping and lifting the internal organs. So if we combine the Mula Bandha, the Uddiyana Bandha, and this new one we're talking about today, the Jalandhara Bandha, it creates what they call the Great Lock or the Maha Banda. So we can put them all together. So if we contract the pelvic floor and lift, if we scoop the belly in and up, creating that vacuum, and drop the chest or chin as we're lifting the chest, we can create the Great Lock. So we'll start by a nice deep inhalation. And as you exhale, breathe out, pause and hold the breath out. Brace the pelvic floor, pulling in, pull the belly in and scoop, drop the chin towards the chest and the chest up towards the chin, and hold until you can no longer keep that breath retained. And as soon as you need to take an inhalation, bring the chin back up and let all the locks go. So it's hard for me to actually perform it right and talk to you at the same time because you shouldn't be able to speak. So let's take a nice deep breath in. Exhale it completely. You hold that breath out as I speak. Pull the pelvic floor up, scoop the belly, hollow out the midsection, tuck the chin, lift the heart, and lengthen the back of the neck. And hold. And then release it and inhale. We'll do it one more time. Take a nice inhale completely, or deeply as you can. Then exhale it all out. As soon as you have all the air out, engage the Mula Bandha, the Uddiyana Bandha. Lift the chin or the chest up towards the chin, contracting that Jalandhara Bandha. And release. Good, nice easy rotation from side to side. Just to lengthen the spine and come into rotation. So the Jalandhara Bandha and the Maha Banda, the throat lock and the great lock, are not used very often in an asana practice, an active physical yoga practice. It's used mostly in what's called a pranayama practice or a breathing practice of yoga. And our pranayama and breathing practice are so important because when we're breathing through the day, we probably only use a very small portion of the capacity of our lungs. And if we use the locks and focus on the breath and expand through the rib cage, we can actually help with our breathing capacity, that respiratory capacity. Let's take one more to each side. And then we'll come back to center. I'd like to try the Jalandhara Bandha and the Great Lock one more time in cat and cow. So coming to all fours, if you need padding for your knees and you've got your blanket there, you can just place that right underneath the kneecaps, which I love to do on a hard floor with my sticky mat. So we have our Hasta Bandha, which is the lock of our hands into the mat. We want to press the ball mound of the thumb and the index finger and spread those fingers nice and wide and slightly claw the hands into the mat and try to make a little suction cup with your hands. And then as you inhale, let's take a nice cow pose. Let your chin glide forward, your tailbone lift. And as you exhale completely, tuck the tailbone, and we'll hold here and find the great lock. So without breathing, pull up your pelvic floor, scoop the Uddiyana Bandha, hollowing out the belly, And find that throat lock we just learned by pulling the chin in towards the back of the throat, lengthening the back of the neck, and pulling your chest up towards your chin. And when you need to take an inhale, come into cow and take a nice long breath in. As you come into cat, exhale completely and try not to breathe as you create your great lock. Pelvic floor up, abdominals in, lengthen the back of the neck, separate your shoulder blades. And we'll do 2 more. Take a nice deep inhalation, coming into your cow. Exhale cat. Hold that exhalation, fire all of the bandhas. And one more time. Inhale. And exhale completely. Pause to retain that exhalation. Create the great lock. And inhale back to neutral. Widen your knees a little bit. Set your hips back towards your heels and extend your hands out long onto the mat for child's pose. And then today we are going to come into dolphin pose instead of our downward facing dog. So bringing your elbows down onto your mat, create a little triangle by interlacing your fingers together. And your elbows are shoulders distance apart. So you don't have a really wide triangle here. It's fairly narrow. Tuck your toes underneath and begin to lift your hips up into dolphin pose. And maybe you can get your legs straight, maybe not today. Anywhere you'd like to be is okay with the backs of the legs. And I want you to notice where my head is in relationship to my shoulders and my biceps. We are going to slide the head forward and slightly drop the bum down until your face is over your knuckles. And then lift your hips back up again and try to get your ears on the other side of your biceps if you have that range of motion in your shoulders. Now, if you need to do this with your knees down, you can still do this by shifting your face forward over your knuckles and then pressing back into a more like a child's pose position. So I'll let you decide where you want to be in terms of the intensity of this. If you'd like your knees down on the ground, this is still a wonderful way to work shoulder stability and range of motion of the shoulders. This also builds strength in our shoulders and in our triceps without a lot of bothersome to the wrists. So it's nice to do this from the elbows. We're just going back and forth at a nice gentle pace. And maybe inhaling as you're coming forward. Exhaling to push back. And one more time, glide forward. And press back with the strength of those arms. And then if you're up onto the balls of the feet, drop your knees down. And we'll take our hands now behind our body and turn your palms up. So this is our traditional balasana child's pose. And just let your shoulders roll open, the backs of your shoulders. A couple more breaths here. And if this is bothersome to your knees, your hips can be up a little bit higher. And then as you rise up, we'll come to a stand so you can tuck your toes and push back onto your feet. And then take your time to come all the way up to a standing position. We are going to perform our great lock here from this standing position. So soften your knees like you're going to sit into child's pose and place your hands right on top of your thighs. And your elbows are maybe a little bit of a bend, but mostly straight. And take a nice deep breath in here and lift your tailbone back like you're doing cow pose and let your chin come forward. And as you exhale, pull your chin back in, lengthen the back of the neck, tuck your tailbone under, and scoop the Uddiyana Bandha, the Mula Bandha, and hold the great lock. And when you need to take a breath in, inhale and let the chin come forward, the tailbone to lift behind. Exhale completely as you curve the spine and ignite that great lock. You might feel your glutes tightening and tensing. As you do this, make the breath generous. So as you come into that inhalation, feel your rib cage really expand. And then as you exhale, ignite those locks. Feel your abdominals working, your pelvic floor working, and that nice lengthening through the back of the neck. We'll do one more repetition. Maha Banda, great lock. The firing of the Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and the Jalandhara Bandha all at the same time. And then release and rise up to a stand. So with your feet about maybe hips distance apart, or you can bring them together. On an inhale, sweep the arms forward and up. Exhale and sit into chair pose. Now, if keeping the arms up is bothersome to you for chair, your arms can be right here. And then press up out of that chair pose. And as you do, bring your arms back behind your body so you have the nice openness through the chest. And then exhale and sit into chair. So our arms and legs are moving at the same time as we come up into that little bit of a chest expansion. And then we sink into the legs. Now, sometimes with chair pose, I oftentimes see too much of a lean forward. It begins to look like this. I want you to think about looking straight ahead, pulling your chin in, and slightly doing the throat lock, not dropping your chin down, but lifting your heart up towards your chin. We'll do 3 more breaths. Inhale, open. Exhale, sink. Chest rises. Chin pulls in. Inhale. Exhale. Pull in the Mula Bandha, a little bit of Uddiyana Bandha scoop. One more time. Breathe in. And breathe out. All the way up to your mountain pose. And take a hold of your yoga strap. If you don't have one at home, what works really nice is a little kitchen towel, or maybe a scarf or a necktie. And then just holding that in front of you, we're going to do that same exercise, but I want you to pull out on your strap. So my hands are about shoulders width apart, they're not too wide, and I'm applying pressure outward on my strap and keeping that band nice and tight. So we'll inhale here, then exhale and bring those arms up at any height that feels okay for you, and you're pulling outward and then coming back up. I want you to focus on your bandhas. So as you sit into that exhalation, pull the pelvic floor in, the Uddiyana Bandha in and up, and try to slightly tuck your chin into that mini throat lock. So what happens sometimes here, I'm going to over-exaggerate it, is we do this with our head. And that is not the Jalandhara Bandha at all. Our neck comes out of, it's in misalignment. It's not stable in that position. So we want to pull the chin in and think about lengthening the back of the neck, but without dropping it down towards the chest. It's really subtle, but when you find it, it's a powerful position for your neck. It's extremely stable. Now, why are we using the strap? If we create this tension on the strap, we're firing the muscles of the upper back and the shoulders. That's helping us to make that connection with all of the muscles there, building strength and endurance. Now, I want you to sit into this one and hold it. Now, you should be feeling some work. My muscles were already talking to me just by pulling that strap out and lifting my arms up. Now, find the great lock and pull up the Mula Bandha. Uddiyana Bandha scoops, chin pulls in, the back of the neck lengthens, but I want you to just breathe. Maybe connecting with that Ujjayi breath. One more breath in. Exhale. And coming up. Now the strap's going to come behind your back. And step 1 foot forward, doesn't matter which one, because we'll do both. And I want you to come into just an easy lunge position. Your back heel can be down like Warrior One, or if you want a little bit more of a balance challenge, you can lift your back heel up. I want you to press your shoulders down away from the ears, open through the heart, and lift your arms any amount away from the back body. Nice braced position. And try not to let your chin jut forward. I want you to pull it back so the back of the neck is lengthened. Arms are up. And then from here, we'll take this into a gentle, humble warrior. So humble warrior doesn't have to be all the way down to the floor. You just start to bring your upper body forward like you're taking a bow. So if here is okay for you, just stay. Or if you'd like to come into a fuller expression of this humble warrior, we can come all the way down and let your head hang until you find a little bit of traction for the neck. And just breathe. Now in this pose, we can focus and reflect on the Pada Bandha, the foot lock. So you can see your back foot if you're all the way folded forward. Make sure your arch is lifted up. And you feel all 4 corners of the feet, right and left side of the heel, right and left side of the ball of the foot, pressing evenly into the mat. On your next inhale, press through that front foot, start to rise up. And then let your arms relax. You need a couple of shoulder rolls. You can release that strap for just a moment. Rolling the shoulders again, up, back, and down. And then we'll come into our lunge facing the opposite direction or just step the other foot forward. Strap is behind the back. Now you can give yourself a little bit more space between your hands if you're finding it hard to raise your arms up. So if you've got a pretty long strap, you can take your arms fairly wide so that you can get your arms to lift up a little bit higher behind your back. Now slightly tuck your chin. Try not to let it jut forward. Really pull it in. Lengthen the back of the neck, but we're lifting the heart up towards the chin to find that Jalandhara Bandha, throat lock. Then you can come into a mini humble warrior by just leaning forward a little bit. Shift your body weight into your front foot. Or you can drape it down further until the crown of your head is drawn towards the earth by gravity, and keep lifting those arms up. Then you can check out the other foot behind you and visually see your Pada Bandha. The arch of the foot should be lifted up off the mat. So we feel a nice equal pressure into both sides of the heel and both sides of the ball of the foot. Now slightly engage the great lock. So pull your Mula Bandha up, that pelvic floor, scoop the belly in and up so you're not letting it hang down. And then find that gentle chin lock. Pull the chin in towards the chest and lengthen the back of the neck. And then we press into that front foot, rising up with the strength of that leg. And then releasing the strap from behind you, take a couple of shoulder rolls. All right, step the feet back together. You can place your strap down, and then if you have a yoga block, have it close by as we work on pyramid pose. So I'm going to step 1 foot forward. Again, this isn't a big lunge to start with. The back foot is flat, and we have our hips squared forward. Both legs are straight, and the chest and shoulders are open. So I'm placing my hands at the hip, but another way you can do pyramid is to make a reverse Anjali Mudra, like a little prayer position behind your back. That's fairly intense for a lot of people. Or you can hold your strap behind you again if you prefer. Now lengthen the spine, fully inhale. Pull your chin back towards the back of the throat, lengthen the back of the neck. Lift your heart up towards the chin, and then begin to hinge forward without rounding your back and losing the chin lock, the Jalandhara Bandha. Just see how far you can come forward until either your hamstring of the front leg says that's far enough, or your back starts to round. So in a lot of my classes, I typically see the pyramid pose looking like this, very rounded, because we just want to get here. We want to say, oh, I can touch my knee with my nose. But that's really not the pose to be rounding the back. We want to keep a really long spine and to keep that nice bandha in through the neck. We can also pull up the pelvic floor and scoop the Uddiyana Bandha. Now your block is here if you prefer not having the hands behind you and you need a little bit of support to bring your fingertips to. But again, try not to do a hunch and a round. Let's hold a couple more breaths in this position. And then as you come up, I like to soften and bend that front knee. Push into the foot just a little bit to come on up. Releasing your arms, take a couple shoulder rolls. And before we switch sides, I want you to just step forward into mountain pose and maybe close your eyes for a little bit. And what do you feel? Sometimes I'm as famous for this as anybody, but we want to get into the other side right away. And it's nice to take a second and say, what do I feel? What are the sensations in my body that I experienced so that I can be conscious of that when I go to the other side? Sometimes it's a nice idea just to wait until those sensations subside a little bit. So it's almost like we erase the chalkboard when we go to the other side. We're fresh and we can start over. So let's move into the other leg. If you'd like to use your block, you can have it close there. I have a shorter stance warrior one position. Back heel is down. The back foot is slightly turned out, and I have both hips squared forward. And then we'll straighten out both legs. Hands can stay at your hips. You can hold your strap behind your back, or you can come into that reverse Anjali Mudra and really lengthen your spine. Before you start to hinge forward, pull your chin in. Try not to let it jut forward. Lengthen the back of the neck and lift the heart up towards the chin for our Jalandhara Bandha. And then, without losing that, how far can you tip forward? What are you feeling? Sensations in your body as you start to descend. Is the chin trying to drop? Is the back trying to round and arch? Pull in the Mula Bandha, Uddiyana, Jalandhara Bandha. And notice the Pada Bandha too, the foot lock. into the mat. That helps you to stabilize. The breath should be moving in and out. All of the bandhas firing here. Couple more breaths. And then to come out, soften that front knee, push into the foot, and release it all the way up. And let it go, maybe a couple of shoulder rolls. And then step back into your mountain pose. If you feel okay with closing your eyes, just notice what you're feeling in your body. The lengthening of the hamstring, the openness through the fronts of the shoulders. We'll just notice those sensations until they start to subside. Usually takes maybe 15, 20 seconds, and the body starts to come back to homeostasis, begins to equalize. And then open your eyes with a soft gaze. So one of the poses we can really work on this Jalandhara Bandha is bridge pose. So I want you to take your time to come down onto your mat. And you can use your block for supported bridge if you'd like to do that. And our block has 3 heights. So we have our low height, our medium height, and our high position. So if you're using your block today, maybe either the low position or the middle height. If you're not using your block, you get to use the strength of your legs. So both ways are wonderful. And then just come down onto your back and set your feet nice and flat onto the mat, finding your Maha Banda. And then I want you to notice the position of your chin. So if you have your head way up because of maybe a little bit of kyphosis in your spine, then I want you to put something underneath your head, like a little pillow or blanket or a towel rolled, so that your chin and everything is completely level. And then pressing into the bottoms of the feet, tuck the tailbone under and start to lift your hips up. And at this point, if you're using your block and you'd like to slide it underneath the hips for supported bridge, you're going to place that block on the pelvis, the wide part of the pelvis, not into your lower back. That nice pelvis, wide part of your pelvis is being supported. If you're not using your block, lifting your hips to whatever height feels good for you and just holding. So sometimes in the bridge pose, we tend to just jet our chin down towards the chest. So I want you to remember in bridge, there's a straight line between your forehead, your nose, and your chin. All of that's level to the ceiling. And we lift our chest up towards the chin. So if you're on the block, I want you to just lift your heart up towards the ceiling. You don't have to use a lot of your legs in order to do that. If you're not on a block, then the hips are going up, the chest is rising, and we're broadening through the fronts of the shoulders and lengthening the back of the neck into our Jalandhara Bandha, our throat lock. We can focus on Maha Banda, making sure we're not rolling out into the outside edges of the feet or the inside edges. We're fully feeling the outside and inside of our heel pressed into the mat, and the outside and inside of the ball of the foot. Arches are lifted. Now, either with the hips on the block or hips lifted, I want you to start to move your arms over the head with an inhale. And then back down to the sides of your body with an exhale. And as you do, we're not losing the lock, the Jalandhara Bandha, the throat lock. Taking 3 more breaths, moving the arms. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. 2 more. There shouldn't be any tension in your neck at all. It should feel nice and relaxed. 1 more time. Breathe in. And breathe out. Hands come back next to the sides of the body. If you have your hips resting on the block, press into your feet slightly. Lift the hips up to slide the block out from underneath the hips. And then we'll start 1 vertebra at a time to roll down. So we're scooping, tucking the tailbone under. Try to find each one of the lumbar vertebrae as you lower back down. And once the lower back connects, then allow your pelvis to shift back to neutral. It's nice to take a counter stretch, pulling the knees in towards the chest, or maybe taking happy baby here, or maybe rocking the knees a little bit from side to side, or giving yourself some knee circles. So our bridge pose is a wonderful way we can work that Jalandhara Bandha and work on neck stabilization, either in a relaxed, supported bridge or in our working bridge. And we'll come back to seated. You can either roll over to a side or roll yourself all the way up. And then if you need to sit onto your blanket, come to a comfortable seated position. And we're going to work on Baddha Konasana. So Baddha Konasana, we have the bottoms of the feet connected into a joined Pada Bandha, and you can look down right between your feet and see the arches of your feet, and make sure there's a little separation. So there's a little opening there. So we have the ball mound of the big toe, the baby toe touching, the heels are touching. There's a little space between the arches. We'll inhale to lengthen the spine. And as you exhale, begin to fold the upper body through the space here and curve inward with the lower belly. And we'll create that Pada Bandha by pressing into the bottoms of the feet. Pull up the Uddiyana Bandha, scooping the belly in and upward. Brace the Mula Bandha, lengthen the back of the neck for our Jalandhara Bandha, and create our throat lock here. Now try not to hold your breath with this time. I want you to breathe in and breathe out as we're holding on to those locks. And then we'll move through the breath. As you inhale, let your chin lift up and your spine lengthen. As you exhale, fold a little deeper and find your bandhas. We'll do that 3 more times, noticing sensations you might be feeling, a stretch in your lower back, maybe connecting with the Ujjayi breath. 2 more. Inhale to lengthen the spine. Exhale to fold and create your locks. And 1 more time. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale and find your edge here. Now we're going to hold this stretch for about a minute's time. A block is a nice prop to use if you'd like to relax your head a little bit, either placing it onto your block, or you can place your elbows onto your block and place your forehead into the heels of your hands. And I'd like you to bring your awareness to the back of your neck. So tuck your chin in towards the back of the throat, lengthen the back of the neck, and breathe. As you're holding this, if you feel like you can sink a little deeper into the pose, Take your prop down to a lower position. We'll hold another 30 seconds. Let your inner thighs open, the low back release. Feel the hips letting go and your mind and body calming. Finish one more in-breath. Exhaling completely as you begin to lift the head back up and lengthening your spine. Allow your knees to close in together. Then we'll extend the legs straight out in front of you for our seated forward bend. And if you have your strap, it's a great tool to place under the bottoms of the feet. So this pose again, I often see either the chin jutting out or the back hunching and rounding. So we're going to find that nice stable neck position by sitting up tall and try to remove the flesh from the sitting bones. And notice as you hinge forward a little bit, your sitting bones should go back. So try not to round forward and let your sitting bones come underneath you. So with a nice long spine, tuck the chin in towards the back of the throat. Take a nice deep inhalation. And then as you exhale, hinge forward a little bit until the backs of the legs say, oh, that's the place right there where I feel my edge and the stretch. So again, it's not about bringing your nose down towards your knees and getting this full forward bend. It's about keeping our Jalandhara Bandha, our chin lock in place, our shoulder blades down, the heart lifting up towards the chin, and then see what range you have in the back of your legs and maintaining that throat lock, chin lock. We'll hold here just a few more breaths. This is a difficult pose to have straight legs. That's okay. Your knees can be bent generously here. You can still fold forward into this forward bend. And just notice the sensations that you're feeling in your body, where you're feeling the stretch. And remember, when we activate that throat lock, we're also activating our nervous system, that side, that parasympathetic side that says rest and relax. Our blood pressure is going down. The fight or flight hormones in our body are diminishing from our bloodstream. We're feeling relaxed. We'll hold just 3 more breaths here. Maybe we can find a little bit deeper range here. Try not to come out of the bandhas. 2 more breaths. Exhaling that final breath completely. And then releasing your strap to come all the way up. We'll pull the right knee in toward you, sitting it anywhere on the floor. And sit up nice and tall. Your left hand will just hold the knee as your right hand reaches behind you anywhere on the mat. Lengthen your spine, tuck the chin in, and then rotate. So we're creating a little bit of that throat lock with a rotation of the neck. And your neck should feel so stable here. The breath is moving. Your eyes can either be closed to experience the pose internally, or you can open your eyes to see where you can see behind your body. One more breath in. Exhaling completely as we come back to the midline. Lengthen the right leg out, pull the left knee in. Find your Pada Bandha here. The foot lock is into the mat. Right hand reaches across just to hold the knee. We're not moving it across, it's just in place. Lengthen the spine, pull the chin in so it's not jutting forward. You have the back of the neck nice and lengthened. Reach behind you with the left hand and begin to rotate. And just notice, are you able to move a little bit deeper into this side? Or is it tighter? What do you see behind you? Where can you go with this pose? The breath moves. The spine lengthens. The neck feels stable. You're stimulating our thyroid gland for proper activation of our metabolism. One more breath. Exhaling completely, come back to a neutral spine. Then we'll find a comfortable position for a shavasana or final relaxation. So if you'd like to come down onto your back, come there, or you can just remain seated if you'd like to just focus on the breath here. If you're on your back, you can bend your knees and set your feet flat, or you can elongate your legs. You can place the soles of the feet together and let the knees open into our Baddha Konasana. So we take some time today to settle down, to let go of tension and stress. We take a moment to reinforce what we've learned today and cement it into our memory banks. Place it into a short-term memory file that we can revisit in the next day or two, and into our long-term memory files. So it's something that we can focus on down the road in the future in our yoga practices and in our everyday life. And as you breathe, just notice the belly slightly drifting away from the backbone on the inhalation and sinking back towards the spine on the exhalation. And notice your throat and your neck, where we spent a lot of extra time today. Try to relax the throat. So if your throat were a straw, I'd like you to make it into a garden hose. So let it be spacious and open, so the breath can move easily in and out. The neck should be long. It's hard to breathe if our neck is kinked. So we find a straight line with the neck. All sides of the neck are equal in length, the front, the back, the right and left sides. And check your body from head to toe to see if you're hanging on to any tension or you're gripping any muscles. Some usual areas that we do are in our shoulders. Sometimes they'll hunch up, so press them down. Even if you're laying on your mat on your back, You can press your shoulders gently away from your ears. Soften through your forehead. So imagine that you're smoothing out any fine lines or wrinkles between the eyebrows, around the eyes. Little crow's feet soften and diminish. And the jaw is relaxed. The teeth may be separated a little bit. The tongue can be gently pressing to the soft palate, the upper part of the roof of the mouth. The lips can even be slightly parted. So the cheeks are relaxed. You feel at peace. As you're here, pause for a moment to think of 3 things or 3 people that you are especially thankful for today. We'll prepare to come out of our final relaxation. But if you're at home at a later time doing this class on YouTube, feel free to stay there as long as you'd like. Take this time for yourself. Otherwise, begin to move your body, maybe starting with your fingers fluttering, your toes wiggling. If you're on your back, you can reach your arms above the head. Even if you're seated, maybe take a stretch. And then you decide how to come up today from your final pose to a comfortable seat. Once you arrive there, just notice how you're feeling as compared to the start of class today. In your physical body, in your muscles, in your bones, in your neck, your tendons, and how you're feeling internally in your mental body, your emotional body. Maybe a little bit more at peace and happy. We'll press the palms of our hands, making a Hasta Bandha connection, our hand lock, feeling all the fingers touching, the thumbs touching, but a little space in the center of your hand, and press your thumbs at your heart. The shoulder blades gently connect behind your back, spine is lifted, and slightly tuck your chin in to that little bit of a Jalandhara Bandha. As we pause to reflect on our practice and express our gratitude for this opportunity to practice together, as distant as we are from one another. The light and the love and the peace that resides within me honors the light and love and peace in each of you. Namaste. Thank you for joining me this morning. I will shut off our Jitsi recording, but if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to stay on for a moment or two and see how everything went for you today.